Hi everyone, I'm Sunny and today's video will be about your celebrity's first impression of you. I have 3 piles you guys can choose from left to right, pile 1, 2, and 3. And if you need more time, you're more than welcome to pause the video. Otherwise, I will go ahead and start with the first pile. So for pile number 1, you guys have the death card reversed. So what is your celebrity's first impression of you? Is that you're someone that probably has a lot to say about the different changes they've been going through, but it's just something that you keep to yourself. Or at least there's this subtle energy, like, you know how sometimes people give off the subtle energy that they've been through a lot? I think of like that scene in Heathers. I mean, it's a movie way back, but Winona Ryder's character is just coming in and she's all like messed up and stuff, and she just has this has this face that she's been through hell and back. It feels like that, where it's like you kind of may seem sometimes cool and collected, or you seem like you're someone that keeps pretty quiet about themselves, but they can pick up on the subtleties that you've been through a lot of heaviness in your life. And it doesn't always have to be dark, right? It's just that possibly sometimes the heaviness can be due to burdens or challenges, like whether it's finances or things out of your control, and accidents, and you manage to keep it together, but it's still very exhausting on you to like always, like, example, you got tired at some point of even crying, right? So it can be one of those things where you're just like indifferent, maybe not necessarily detached, but it does feel like you're someone who has a lot to themselves, and they pick up on that. They pick up on the fact that you're someone that can be a little bit intimidating, maybe intense, but it's not an intensity that's pushed outwardly like all the time. I think it's something that as they slowly approach you or they get to talk to you, there's like a seriousness to you. So it could be one of those things they see, or someone that when you speak, it's because you are well versed in subjects, not like a wordy like person, but you're someone that is very familiar with more serious topics, or more like occult themes. It could be like that. So it's one of those things that they pick up on, and they're intrigued. They're like, what did I walk into? This person is very different from what I felt like they were going to be. But yeah, overall that's how they pick up your vibe, where it's like more knowledgeable in like those darker subjects, or like even psychology, or someone that could be very interested in crime, or very interested in mental health, or very interested in figuring out how human development changes over time, or how things can interact with like nature, nurture stuff, right? So things that you learn and experience versus things that you've acquired since birth, right? So it's a lot of these things that maybe you're a lot more knowledgeable than maybe they thought you were. And not saying that you could have been dumb or anything, it's just they didn't think of you as someone who would be as, it feels more like you're an expertise, you're a researcher. It feels like that you're someone that researches deep well into stuff. And even if you don't feel interest in a lot of these subjects, you could feel an interest in knowing a lot about your celebrity crush, right? So like knowing their early on artistic years to like now, or like being indie to mainstream, being like hidden gem to like popular, and like all these things. Or you could know the fan clubs too, or you could know a lot of their pictures, or just it's you just know a lot. If you don't know a lot about your own stuff, you just know a lot about them. So you might keep that to yourself too. So they pick up on that. They pick up on the fact that you're very very knowledgeable in these like maybe it could be that you work in like media, one of those things where, or like not advertising, what are they called, paparazzi? Couldn't even think of the word. But it could be one of those things where you involve yourself in media stuff like that to promote them, or managerial stuff. It could be like that, where they find out that you know how to do your job properly, right? So that's what they have an impression of you. Just to add a few extra notes before I jump into the next one. I do think they see you as someone with a lot of internal chaos, and it's interesting because it's a little bit more serious. Maybe not, it's not always you, but in the moment in time they do have an impression of you and meet you in person. That's what they feel. They pick up very transformative energy. Maybe you're going through a lot of upheavals and they can see it, or maybe you're someone that they end up seeing and working with, and they figure out that you have some pretty heavy changes, like someone in their end stages and you're taking care of them, or you're someone that's getting a divorce and you have a child, and they figure out that you have to be the backbone basically and have a lot of internal strength to, you know, continue to move on with your life and do, you know, your own thing. So they might also seem to also respect that side of you, where they know that you can face these challenges, and they might be like, oh, I didn't think these people actually existed. It's something that you kind of just hear by, like, you know, word of mouth, or maybe just like really far-fetched stories from people that are like once in a blue moon, that are like very interesting or like very powerful and stuff like that. And there's a powerful aspect to you, and your like quiet nature. There's an inner strength to you. So that's what I have for you. I hope you guys enjoyed that. Thank you so much. So next, pile number 2, you guys have the Page of Wands reversed. So what is your celebrity's first impression of you? Let me just take a sip of water. Okay, so with this one, I'm sorry for my for my voice. It's been not great allergy season. And I get a little scratchy and nasally, so I apologize. But with this pile, I think I'm going to gravitate towards more of you that have chosen pile 2 as female or strong feminine energy. Maturity, talk about, like, if you had to compare that celebrity crush to you, you probably are more mature, or you have extra years on your plate, right? So there's nothing wrong with that, but I'm just stating the obvious. So with this pile, I think that you can also be someone that you could share some things, particularly, not everything, but somehow I feel that you might be a little bit on the introverted side, maybe kind of hinting at some stuff with pile 1. You don't have to select that pile if you didn't feel like you were called to. It's just some things to note. And I don't think I even mentioned that in pile 1, but moving on, I do think that this pile is someone who might feel like they want to expand their horizons internally. Maybe you have a lot of stamina, but it's more so towards things that you need to work on internally, things that you need to have, like a routine, like example, it doesn't have to be that far out crazy, but it could be like you're someone that's very diligent in maybe nourishing yourself by like reading self-help books, or you're someone that enjoys giving your soul a little bit of food by, you know, listening to music and pieces that most of the time they just make you feel good, but you know a lot about. Or it could be things that you enjoy, like watching movies or drawing, or you could do a sport like running a marathon and stuff like that. It's little things, right? But this is more active, right? But more so, it's little things that only you probably know of, and nobody else really. Not that they don't care, but they don't necessarily consider that like the first option to think about when it comes to you. It's something you probably do in your privacy. You know, your actions are more towards self-involvement, and then it's a good way. Like, you can also make yourself feel beautiful by putting on makeup, and you're the only one in the room, right? You do your makeup late at night, and it's one of those things that you just like to play with stuff and make yourself feel good about yourself, and nobody else has to really watch. It's like those special moments for you to like really feel good about yourself are just kept to yourself, and it's not something you need to kind of, you know, express yourself outwardly all the time. I also think you could be a person that cultivates their speech, their communication. So maybe you just enjoy singing, or maybe you enjoy writing, and it's not something, it's like a pastime that not many people know about or have heard you. And it's one of those things that you start learning to really expand yourself, really feel like there's a lot of new things you could always learn about yourself, and you're never going to stop. So they pick up on that. They pick up on the fact that you're someone that's very interested in more of the things that can't be unseen too. So even getting to know how people tick, what makes them tick, what are their hobbies, what are things that they like to put efforts in. And a lot of your efforts maybe are for self-improvement, things that you like to work on. So maybe even making yourself look good to a certain way, maybe cultivating that low confidence from time to time, even though it's reversed. It's still like one of those things you're working on. You work, those are challenges, but you meet those challenges head on, and you have at least the stamina, like not stamina, you have the direction and the mentality to really like know that it's a thing you have to work on, and you do that privately, more so than not, just to kind of be not maybe reliant on others and just more like independent. Or you do it so that you don't easily get triggered by people if they come at you and they critique you and kind of push you down, because it can be one of those things that you're working on it because that's a common factor that you've experienced. So it could be one of those things. You could also even express yourself privately through your clothing choices, or what you do to your hair or facial hair, where you privately do this just so that you can feel it out, to finally gain some confidence, to be putting yourself out there and like exploring all these other options you could have. So they see you as a tidbit, not eccentric, but flamboyant, maybe. It is the Page of Wands, but it is reversed. So they can feel it out and pick it up that you're someone that's creative and colorful, but you kind of keep that to yourself or in private or just to your close friends. So it's one of those things you could work on, but not many people see it, right? So your own privacy is where you feel the safest, but that doesn't feel like it's always the case. It just feels it takes some time for you to warm up. So one last thing before I move on to the next pile that I wanted to say for this pile is that your celebrity crush probably picks up on the fact, sorry, my throat, let me just drink some water. That you might want to speak up to them and tell them like how much you admire them and stuff, how much you have passion for them, but you might be skittish, or you might just like hide away and like feel like, oh, I probably shouldn't tell them. They look like they're not in a good mood, or maybe I'm bothering them. It feels like maybe that confidence in that way of like speaking up to them and telling them how much you admire them would probably get to you. Maybe the nerves, right? But I don't think so much nerve. It's just like putting up I knew that was gonna happen. My throat. Apologies. That's why I stopped earlier. I was like, no. Oh well, second puberty. Anyways, maybe they pick up on the fact that you try to stop yourself from showing your passion, right? Because it could be a little embarrassing sometimes to put out your heart out there, and like your vigor, right? Yeah, I mean, basically I'm just trying to say that you letting them know how enthusiastic you are is sometimes embarrassing, and maybe that's why you keep it to yourself and you don't approach them right away, but they can pick up on that. If they're the ones that approach you, they definitely pick up on the fact that you might be a little more like starstruck. That's the proper way. Yeah, I feel like maybe like if you wanted to reach out for an autograph or a picture, you kind of like second guess yourself and like hide away. That's what it feels like. So thank you, pile number 2. Next, pile number 3, you guys have the 5 of Cups reversed. So I hope my voice doesn't start cracking like pile number 2, and I'm sorry if you heard that. So pile number 3, what is your celebrity crush's first impression of you? They know, or they pick up on the fact that maybe, so like example, I don't know why I wanted to say this with this particular pile, but if you met your celebrity crush at some event, at some point, or by chance, and you're like you took a double look, and you couldn't even like approach them or say hi or just ask them for an autograph. It just gives off that vibe of like, I missed my chance to talk to them, and you're like, oh, like you're just frustrated with yourself, and you're like, I didn't have my phone, I didn't have something to write on, I was not paying attention, like I was just kind of in my own world, which is totally fine. It happens to everybody. But for those who had those scenarios, it's okay. You could even have a second chance of like ending up meeting them in a different event or scenario, and you having the chance to actually ask them for, you know, that autograph or the picture, or like that shout out, right? Whatever it may be, or you just want to give them something, right? Like a little plush or something. It could be one of those things where you do have a second chance, and you might not look at the spilled milk so much of like, oh, this happened, but oh well. Maybe like you're learning to actually walk away from that and find an opportunity to actually find that the second time you might actually have a better chance of talking to them a little bit more than just like, oh, hi, bye kind of thing, because you guys could be busy. So it could be one of those things, or it could be that they notice that you are no longer the kind of person that's lingering over feelings that are like hurt. So like example, like if they know that you like they maybe broke your heart, for example. I know it's like, I keep wanting to talk about emotions here, but let's say you were disappointed or hurt or something because they ended up getting in a relationship or they got married, you're like, no, or something. That happens sometimes with the stance too, for example. And as long as you're not being malicious and like you wish them well, you're a good fan. But it does feel like maybe like you're not as butthurt about it, and you're like, it's okay, I have more crushes. There's more people to crush on, but I still like you, you know, like it's just, you know, you learn to put up that boundary, like you respect that, right? And you're not gonna cry over the fact that they're like taken, right? So it could be one of those things, or they know that in your life too, you're someone that is no longer gonna cry over the fact that their failed relationships or relationships that could have been are no longer a factor for you, and you're learning to maybe even put yourself back up, learning to put that love into yourself rather than outwardly and onto others. So you learn to appreciate yourself, you learn to value yourself, and you learn to actually focus on healing yourself from the inside out. And whatever that may be, likely you could have a long period of even maybe celibacy or something, like you trying to abstain from actual connections from people, like not connection people, like friends and stuff, but more so investing yourself in people that could be potentially serious down the road. You're trying to avoid that and just kind of focus on having a nice time, right? Like nothing too deep for now, right? Because you're supposed to be on this healing journey, just basically looking at yourself from a different perspective and how you can be different and do stuff differently so that you have healthier relationships later on, or connections later on, or just friendships even at that. It could be that. So they can see that, they can pick that up. They're like, oh wow, like this is an interesting person. But interesting in the way where they know that you're giving, like, how could I say, I keep wanting to think of Cher's song, believing in love after, I always say that opposite and I never get the line right. Believing in love after life, or life after love, something like that. But giving love a second chance in different ways, right? Giving yourself a shot at love, and then just making yourself feel more confident even at that, or just making yourself feel more secure with your emotions and not so codependent on others to kind of, you know, fill up your cup for you, and you can just fill it up for yourself, right? So you're not gonna look at this cup and be like, oh well, like who else is gonna pick it up and like fill it up for me because I only have X amount of cups, and you can do that yourself, right? Not so much being independent all the time, but just more so independent from codependency, right? And they can pick that. Your creativity can be affected from that as well. So maybe you're in a rut and they pick up that they pick that up, that maybe you felt like you had like a writer's block or an artistic block, and emotional block even at that, because you kept putting self-restrictions or just restrictions on yourself for whatever reason. It's a challenge, probably more like internal and psychological in that aspect, not stuff that can be seen. And they see that you're working on it, and they see that you're thriving slowly. It is slow changes, and you feel like you're finally changing your mindset about how things should be working. I think you're kind of breaking those chains from yourself, and it was more like an imposed blockage emotionally or mentally, and you're learning to walk away from that. And they see that you're becoming a much healthier person. I do see there's some. I like certain things about pile 1 and 3. Pile 2 is like, this is my opinion. It's like, it's decent, but it's like I like the changes. I like the differences. You're walking away from the person who you used to be to someone new, and they can see that. So it feels like they see you, and they start seeing you, or they see you in a much healthier way as a fan, right? So do take what you will from that, and whatever resonates, great. But that's what I have for you guys. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. Thank you so much, and I'll see you in a different video. You're more than welcome to watch more celebrity videos if that's what you like. I have a bunch of them. So thank you so much, and have a great day. So bye everyone.